Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing safe in the world and practicing on being calm. Today's a finishing on the fourth chapter of Zecharia Sitchin's The 12th Planet. The chapter is titled Sumer, Land of the Gods. Yesterday we left off at the beginning of page 118. Just as the law codes and the court records are human testimonials to the actual presence among the ancient peoples of Mesopotamia of a deity named Utu or Shamash, so there exist endless inscriptions, texts, incantations, oracles, prayers, and depictions attesting to the physical presence and existence of the goddess Inanna, whose Akkadian name was Ishtar. A Mesopotamian king in the 13th century BC stated that he had rebuilt her temple in her brother's city of Sippar on the foundations that were 800 years old in this time. But in her central city, Uruk, tales of her went back to olden times. Known to the Romans as Venus, to the Greeks as Aphrodite, to the Canaanites and the Hebrews as Astarte, to the Assyrians and Babylonians and Hittites and the other ancient peoples as Ishtar or Eshtar, to the Akkadians and the Sumerians as Inanna or Inin or Nini, or by others of her many nicknames and epithets. She was at all times the goddess of warfare and the goddess of love, a fierce, beautiful female who, though only a great granddaughter of Anu, carved for herself, by herself, a major place among the great gods of heaven and earth. As a young goddess, she was apparently assigned a domain in a far land east of Sumer, the land of Arata. It was there that the lofty one, Inanna, queen of all the land, had her house. But Inanna had greater ambitions. In the city of Uruk there stood the great temple of Anu, occupied only during his occasional state visits to earth, and Inanna set her eyes on this seat of power. Sumerian king lists state that the first non-divine ruler of Uruk was Meshkiagasher, Meshkiagasher, a son of the god Utu by a human mother. He was followed by his son Amarkar, a great Sumerian king. Inanna then was the great aunt of Amarkar, and she found little difficulty in persuading him that she should really be the goddess of Uruk rather than of the remote Arata. A long and fascinating text named Amarkar and the Lord of Arata describes how Amarkar sent emissaries to Arata using every possible argument in a war of nerves to force Arata to submit because the Lord Amarkar, who was the servant of Inanna, made her queen of the house of Anu. The epic's unclear end hints at a happy ending. While Inanna moved to Uruk, she did not abandon her house in Arata, that she might have become a commuting goddess is not so improbable, for Inanna or Ishtar was known from other texts as an adventurous traveler. Her occupation of Anu's temple in Uruk could not have taken place without his knowledge and consent, and the texts give us strong clues as to how such consent was obtained. Soon Inanna was known as Anunitum, a nickname meaning beloved of Anu. She was referred to in texts as the holy mistress of Anu, and it follows that Inanna shared not only Anu's temple but also his bed whenever he came to Uruk, or on the reported occasions of her going up to his heavenly abode. Having thus maneuvered herself into the position of goddess of Uruk and mistress of the temple of Anu, Ishtar proceeded to use trickery for enhancing Uruk's standing and her own powers. Farther down the Euphrates stood the ancient city of Eridu, Enki's center. Knowing of his great knowledge of all the arts and sciences of civilization, Inanna resolved to beg, borrow, or steal these secrets. Obviously intending to use her personal charms on Enki, her great uncle, Inanna arranged to call on him alone. The fact was not unnoticed by Enki, who instructed his housemaster to prepare dinner for two. Excuse me. Come, my housemaster, Isumud, hear my instructions. A word I shall say to you, heed my words. The maiden, all alone, has directed her step to the Abzu. Have the maiden enter the Abzu of Eridu. Give her to eat barley cakes with butter. Pour for her cold water that freshens the heart. Give her to drink beer. Happy and drunk, Enki was ready to do anything for Inanna. She boldly asked for the divine formulas which were the basis of a high civilization. Enki granted her some 100 of them, including divine formulas pertaining to supreme lordship, kingship, priestly functions, weapons, legal procedures, scribeship, woodworking, even the knowledge of musical instruments and of temple prostitution. By the time Enki awoke and realized what he had done, Inanna was already well on her way to Uruk. Enki ordered after her his awesome weapons, but to no avail, for Inanna had sped to Uruk in her boat of heaven. Quite frequently, Ishtar was depicted as a naked goddess, flaunting her beauty. She was sometimes even depicted raising her skirts to reveal the lower parts of her body, in Figure 52 below. Gilgamesh, a ruler of Uruk circa 2900 BC, who was also partly divine, having been born to a human father and a goddess, reported how Inanna enticed him, even after she already had an official spouse. Having washed himself after a battle and put on a fringed cloak fastened with a sash, glorious Ishtar raised an eye at his beauty. Come, Gilgamesh, be thou my lover. Come, grant me your fruit. Thou shalt be my male mate. I will be thy female. 52 is representing the Inanna, Ishtar. What else do they call her? Anunitum was another name for her. Venus, Aphrodite, Astarte, Ishtar, Eshtar, Inanna, Enin, or Nini. So Sitchin is saying pretty much all those deities were represented by this one grand deity, if you will. But Gilgamesh knew the score. Which of thy lovers didst thou love forever? He asked. Which of thy shepherds pleased thee for all time? Reciting a long list of her love affairs, he refused. As time went on, as she assumed higher ranks in the pantheon, and with it the responsibility for affairs of a state, Inanna or Ishtar began to display more martial qualities, and was often depicted as a goddess of war armed to the teeth. On figure 43, the next page. The inscriptions left by Assyrian kings describe how they went to war for her, and upon her command how she directly advised when to wait and when to attack, how she sometimes marched at the head of the armies, and how on at least one occasion she granted a theophany and appeared before all the troops. In return for their loyalty, she promised the Assyrian kings long life and success. From a golden chamber in the skies I will watch over thee, she assured them. Was she turned into a bitter warrior because she too came upon hard times with the rise of Marduk? to supremacy. In one of his inscriptions, Nabanad said, Inanna of Uruk, the exalted princess who dwelt in a gold sala, who rode upon a chariot to which were harnessed 7 lions. The inhabitants of Uruk changed her colt during the rule of King Erba Marduk, removed her sala, and unharnessed her team. Inanna reported Nabanad had therefore left Anna angrily, and stayed hence in an unseemly place, which he does not name in figure 44. Seeking perhaps to combine love with power, the much courted Inanna chose as her husband Dumuzi, a younger son of Enki. Many ancient texts deal with the loves and quarrels of the two. Some are love songs of great beauty and vivid sexuality. Others tell how Ishtar, back from one of her journeys, found Dumuzi celebrating her absence. She she arranged for his capture and disappearance into the lower world, a domain ruled by her sister Ereshkigal and her consort Nergal. Some of the most celebrated Sumerian and Akkadian texts deal with the journey of Ishtar to the lower world in search of her banished beloved. So here at the top, everyone is figure 53 when they're depicting her armed to the teeth. And 54 below that was referencing about her. Sorry, guys, I'm just reading back over what we just read. The 7 lions. Um, her removal from her cella and the unharnessing of her team, and where she was left in a place that she was unfamiliar with. Of the 6 known sons of Enki, 3 have been featured in Sumerian tales. The firstborn Marduk, who eventually usurped the supremacy, Nergal, who became the ruler of the lower world, and Dumuzi, who married Inanna or Ishtar. Enlil too had 3 sons who played key roles in both divine and human affairs. Ninurta, who having been born to Enlil by his sister Ninurshag, was the legal successor. Nana or Sin, firstborn by Enlil's official spouse Ninlil, and a younger son by Ninlil named Ishkur, mountainous, far mountain land, who was more frequently called Adad, or beloved. As brother of Sin and uncle of Utu and Anana, Adad appears to have felt more at home with them than at his own house. The Sumerian texts constantly grouped the 4 together. The ceremonies connected with the visit of Anu to Uruk also spoke of the 4 as a group. One text describing the entrance to the court of Anu states that the throne room was reached through the gate of Sin, Shamash, Adad, and Ishtar. Another text, first published by V.K. Shileko in Russian Academy of the History of Material Cultures, states poetically described the 4 as retiring for the night together. The greatest affinity seems to have existed between Adad and Ishtar, and the 2 were even depicted next to each other, as on this relief showing an Assyrian ruler being blessed by Adad, holding the ring and lightning, and by Ishtar holding her bow. The third deity is too mutilated to be identified in figure 55, the next page. Was there more to this affinity than a platonic relationship, especially in view of Ishtar's record? It is noteworthy that in the biblical Song of Songs, the playful girl calls her lover Dud, a word that means both lover and uncle. Now, was Ishkur called Adad, a derivative from the Sumerian Dada, because he was the uncle who was the lover? But Ishkur was not only a playboy, he was a mighty god, endowed by his father Enlil with the powers and prerogatives of a storm god. As such, he was revered as Hurrian or Hittite Teshub and the Ur Artarian Teshubu, which translates wind blower, the Amorite Ramanu, which translates thunderer, the Canaanite Ragamu, which translates caster of hailstones, the Indo European Barayash, which translates light maker, the Semitic Mir, which is he who lights up the skies in figure 56 on the next page. A god list kept at the British Museum as shown by Hans Scobie in Der Akkadisch Vettergott in Mesopotamian clarifies that Ishkur was indeed the divine lord in lands far from Sumer and Akkad. As Sumerian texts reveal, this was no accident. Enlil, it seems, willfully dispatched his young son to become the resident deity in the mountain lands north and west of Mesopotamia. Why did Enlil dispatch his youngest and beloved son away from Nippur? Several Sumerian epic tales have been found at the arguments and even bloody struggles among the younger gods. Many cylinder seals depict scenes of God battling God in figure 57. It would seem that the original rivalry between Enki and Enlil was carried on and intensified between their sons, their brother sometimes turning against brother, a divine tale of Cain and Abel. Some of these battles were against a deity identified as Kur, in all probability Ishkur or Adad. This may well explain why Enlil deemed it advisable to grant his younger son a far-off domain, to keep him out of the dangerous battles for the succession. The position of the sons of Anu, Enlil, and Enki, and of their offspring, in the dynastic lineage emerges clearly through a unique Sumerian device, the allocation of numerical rank to certain gods. The discovery of this system also brings out the membership in the great circle of gods of heaven and earth when Sumerian civilization blossomed. We shall find that this supreme pantheon was made up of 12 deities. The first hint that a cryptographic number system was applied to the great gods came with the discovery that the names of gods Sin, Shamash, and Ishtar were sometimes substituted in the text by the numbers 30, 20, and 15, respectively. The highest unit of the Sumerian sexagesimal system, 60, was assigned to Anu. Enlil was 50, Enki was 40, and Adad is 10. The number 10 and its six multiples with the prime number 60 were thus assigned to male deities, and it would appear plausible that the numbers ending with 5 were assigned to the female deities. From this, the following cryptographic table emerges. So before I switch to that slide, guys, we have a few figures to go back over. Uh, at the top is figure 55. That one is the depiction of the relationship between Adad and Ishtar and an Assyrian ruler being blessed by the two. So Adad, let's zoom in here. Adad is the one with the ring and the lightning, and Ishtar is holding the bow. So here we got Ishtar. Right there is the Dod deity, and here is the Assyrian king receiving his kingship. 56 was a depiction of Ishkur, which was the son of the two. And as you can see, harnessing the lightning, riding the bull, and all that stuff that was mentioned in previous chapters. Figure 57 was a depiction of the younger gods fighting each other, brother versus brother, and so on, so on, which kind of relates today. And now this number system on top here was that sexagesimal system of 60. See, so everything with 5 was related to female. And we had 6 females, 6 male. And the ranking of 10 multiplied by 6 starting at Ishkur or Dad on up. Ninurta, we should not be surprised to learn, was assigned the number 50, like his father. In other words, his dynastic rank was conveyed in a cryptographic message. If Enlil goes, you, Ninurta, step into his shoes, but until then you are not one of the 12, for the rank of 50 is occupied. Nor should we be surprised to learn that when Marduk usurped the Enlilship, he insisted that the gods bestow on him the 50 names, to signify that the rank of 50 had become his. There were many other gods in Sumer, children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews of the great gods. There were also several hundred rank and file gods called Anunnaki who were assigned, one may say, general duties, but only 12 made the great circle. They, their family relationships, and above all, the line of dynastic succession can better be referred to if we show them in a chart. And this is that chart. So the solid lines represent the pantheon of the 12. See, you have Anu right there at the top. See the double border. Those represent the 12. See, what happened? The double bar, pantheon of the 12. A solid line with the dash marks is Enlil's legal successor, and just one solid dotted line is Enki's son, the usurper. And 60 represents the rank number of succession. So under Anu, we have Enki and Enlil. Under Enki's Marduk, Nabu. Under Enlil, have quite a big tree here. Enlil, down to Ninurta, down to Nanar, down to Shamash, then Ishkur, and Anana. And that does today's reading, everyone. Tomorrow's reading will be the beginning of the fifth chapter titled The Nephilim, People of the Fiery Rockets. I want to thank you all for being a part of this. I really appreciate your time, your thoughts, and just basically just sharing the time. Like I said, that's pretty important. It should be pretty important to people nowadays. Because as we're watching life unfold in front of us every moment, we're seeing those around us perish. And it shouldn't be that way. But let's figure it out, guys. Thank you. Love you all. Stay safe and calm.